this man had energy coming out of his hands that just transformed you.
That was his way of healing, this absolute sort of triple Leo radiation.
People would have tumors and they would shrink overnight.
I saw many miracles there at that house.
Karmu was like a living embodiment of what it was that Christ was talking about.
He reached out to others with love.
The embodiment of the master. And there's healing going on all over this country.
This was a true healer.
He would just say, I'm the highest of the high and the lowest of the low.
The word I would use to describe him, I think, is incredible.
There's everything about him was dynamic and amazing and unique, and he just wowed me. But even then, it was his philosophy of giving, taking care of his fellow man that stuck with me.
One of my favorite lines was, like he'd be talking to some guys and he'd be saying, I'm gonna fix you up with someone and you guys are really great characters. I like what I see, I like what I see. And then he'd end with, how many toes you've got on each foot, or something like that. Or he was a poet too. I mean, he would launch into this wonderful poetry.
He was an energy source. He was a tremendous generator of life energy and vitality in the room. He was a very magnetic person.
Here in the midst of the United States was this small flat with this powerful soul.
He could talk philosophy, he could talk politics, he could talk about all kinds of things.
I mean, where did this incredibly educated tone that appeared now and then? And the rest of the time, he's the dumb black man with these little phrases. But when he really got talking, he was eloquent. He was as good as Martin Luther King and many other people combined.
He was a highly evolved person, but he was a person.
They look at you and they see a savior. They want to believe because they have to believe, because there's no other choice. It's a drowning man clutching at a straw. He clutches it. The straw becomes a log. He's saved. He builds up a self-image of himself. The God with his soul becomes large and warm and pure and positive.
He had a concept of Christianity. You feed the people, you don't take money for it. Everyone's welcome. You make up, there's enough food. He doesn't turn anyone away. He takes the street people, the downtrodden.
He would accept anyone who walked in the door.
There was no one who came in the door that didn't get what they need. Some people got their teeth kicked in, which is what they needed, but he always gave people what they needed.
Sometimes famous people would show up. I remember when Allen Ginsberg came, and he had a broken leg at the time. And he sat in Karmu's back room with his leg propped up in a cast. That's when we all sang that song, when you break your leg, you've got nothing to stand on.
I can remember Ram Dass sitting there, and there's so many people that came through that door.
We knew Ram Dass very well. We were the ones, Ron and I brought him there to meet Karmu. Celebrities would go see Karmu. McClellan, the whole Cambridge elite crowd would come there, and the dope addicts, fiends, killers, maniacs were there, and they're all mingling together.
David McClellan was a rather pivotal figure in those days, not just with Karmu, but he had actually hired both Leary and Alpert, who once they're at Harvard met, got into psychedelics, and the rest is history. But in that history, David played a pivotal role because he was the chairman of the department. And David and Karmu really clicked. David loved Karmu and spent a lot of time with him.
I mean, there was this whole association of kind of famous people. R.D. Laing came by, Andrew Weil came by.
Jonathan Leaf, who had worked with Karmu, wanted to take me over there. So he brought me up to this apartment. It was stifling hot in there, lots of people, loud music. I didn't know what to make of it. Karmu was sitting there with his shirt off next to a table with bowls of these colored punches. Very strange people milling about, and it was obvious that he was the center of attention and was giving off a lot of energy. And he had his eye on me, so he motioned me over, and he really just did a number on my back. And then he had me stand facing him. He was holding me by one hand and he was looking me in the eye and he was saying things like, "You're a really strong cat." And he would sock me or hit me, I guess, open-handed in the chest as hard as he could. And it took all my concentration not to fall over. And he would just keep doing that, saying, "You're a really strong dude. You got work to do. I want you to go out there, do good stuff in the world." And at the end of that, I was completely transformed. All of this weird negative energy that I'd felt coming back to the U.S. from South America was dispelled. I felt really part of the group there.
There were different kinds of people that came to Karmu's. There were a group of us that were like there as his students. We were like part of a healing center. We were like his little helpers. The middle class people never came, either the high or the low people, either rich people, celebrity people, or the really screwed up homeless, addicts, killers, pimps and prostitutes. He would attract the high and the low people. The ordinary people couldn't see him. He was invisible to middle-class America because he didn't fit any category that they could comprehend.
He was a black man being brought up in 1913 in Boston, very racist place. He came from a very middle-class black family, and they told him to become an auto mechanic. And unlike all the other siblings, he didn't go to college.
Do a little work during the day, about 8 or 9 hours, and we go home and take care of the people. I got a crippled girl coming all the night that can't walk. And I've got the people coming up from Situate again to be done, plus the holy girl from Virginia. Her body's racked with pain. We have to eliminate it.
I was this dainty, Ivy League character who never get his hands dirty. He made me a mechanic, so I would work with him, and I'd be fixing this and getting dirty, and he would give me a car. Most of the time you have the impression cars break down because a part wears out or something happens, but you don't think it has to do with the way that it's driven and the way it's taken care of, and the kind of personality of the person who's using the car would be the determining factor in what goes wrong. But he showed me time after time that the way this car broke down was based upon the characteristics of the person, and they would give that car away and he'd give me another car.
This morning at 6:30, I was treating a few people, and you can only do so much. 6 to 9, then we work up here during the daytime, then we take care of the people at night again. That's about it, primarily. We take care of people in cars.
There was a magic in that time period that I don't think anyone has ever experienced. It wasn't just us. It was a collective thing of love-ins, be-ins, the anti-war movement, the politics of the time, the Vietnam War.
We were a pretty outrageous group around him.
We got so excited about him because we were in this tide of, the Cultural Revolution that happened in the late 60s.
The structures of our civilization were going through real change. Our leaders failed us in the 60s. They were exposed as liars and cheats, and we were left without leadership. And as young people, we realized we had to develop leadership qualities ourselves, from within ourselves. We had to find elders, and they were not the elders of the society out front. Certainly were not our political leaders. And the whole psyche around the war and the absurdity of the Vietnam War and the stupidity of it and the ugliness of it and the tragedy of it had an enormous impact on our young, tender, learning hearts.
This is 1971, 72. I mean, it was free love, baby. I mean, that's what we were into. Everybody. Pre-AIDS, birth control had just, exploded onto the scene. And it was a great time to be, 20 or 30 or 60. It didn't matter. And so that was part of what was going on in Cambridge or any college town in America. But he had his time, and his time was very tuned into the times.
Coming into America were Swamis and Sufis and Murshids, and there was this blossoming for me, having been raised as a Christian, to actually experience someone who was living a Christianity that was so different from my going to church and wearing my nice hat.
The two societal movements were the civil rights movement and the anti-war movement, no doubt. The two gender movements were the feminist movement and the gay movement. And the two consciousness movements were the human potential movement, psychology, and the spiritual movement. Now, there's music running across all six. The 60s were a musical time.
And then Saturday night, we get wild and we play at the Joy of Movement, and we're the Guru Blanket Band. We're the Grateful Dead of Cambridge. I mean, we were a very popular band. We were brought to the United Nations. So that's like 4 nights of the week. And then at the end of those nights, everyone comes back to Karmu's house, and he has 35, 40 people that he's healing one after another, and a party ensues till 3, 4 in the morning. But a party is Karmu's healing everyone.
He made his place kind of like a rock concert, the kind of place people would go to arrive at a higher energy of life, and that higher energy drove out demons and devils and other stuff that people might be preoccupied with.
When Karmu was, in fact, radiating out something in the culture and something that was really amazing. And it was a lot about group. Ronnie talks about group as Messiah. The next Messiah will come as a group. That group consciousness is where it's at, that the era of individual magnetic superstars is an old thing, and that the real change is coming through group consciousness.
I think the phenomenon of him fit those times. People who weren't in the 60s think maybe we're making this stuff up, but it really was a time of dynamic change.
His family had been part of the free black community in Cambridge for, since forever, perhaps, whenever that community got itself established. And his family was well educated, and they were important, and they held prominent positions. He wasn't that person, though. He was more of a rogue and the boxer, the mechanic, that kind of person, the lover.
There was no love between he and his siblings because he was so weird. I mean, here they were trying to be respectable black people in the racist Boston.
His own kids, they thought he was a charlatan. His sisters, they, taking up with all these white kids hanging around your house, they didn't like what he was doing.
He eventually told me stories about his marriages, his failed marriages. I mean, how could anyone be married to Karmu? I mean, it would be ridiculous. I mean, he was not a person who could be bound to one person.
I mean, he talked about having children, but they very rarely came around. I took my dad to visit Karmu. My father said to him, "So if you're such a talented guy, how come you didn't make any money?" Well, I'm just a dumb black man.
And he knew that the wealthy would never give him any money because they don't take him seriously. He would be healing them, working on them, laboring to help them. They would be healed, they would go off. He would get the satisfaction out of healing them, and they would, after that, ignore him.
He didn't ask for money. You'd have to really ask him, what can I do, and leave a few dollars or something like this. I mean, that for me is like absolutely profound, that he basically served others so completely.
Well, I met Karmu in 1971. I was in his home. I experienced him. I decided to approach him about making a film about him. I was in school. I was a film student. And I said, Karmu, I'd like to make a film about you. It's a documentary. We're going to come in, we're going to shoot. And, if you're a charlatan, that's what it's going to be about. If it's, whatever it is. And he said, bring it on, cat. He said to me.
And then at some point, Guy invited me to go meet Karmu. And I remember sitting in Karmu's kitchen, hanging on to it. Where am I? Where have I come to? What is this place? And then at some point he said something like, "You're the one." It couldn't be me.
I kind of remember being sat on Karmu's lap and having him bang me around the back and slap me on the belly and tell me what a prince of a fellow I was, which gave me my general sense of how, as I look back on it, Karmu kind of elevated the energy in his place such that it was very difficult to be a depressed, negative, horrible person when you were there.
You know, I just felt completely welcome. It was really a friendship. I mean, you know, it was just coming for whatever reason.
You know, my brother had died in Vietnam, and that was hard. And then I got divorced, and that was very hard. And so I guess I wouldn't have to say I was there as a patient. I wouldn't have called myself a patient, but it was just a warm, comfortable place to go.
Then it was when Murshid Samuel Lewis came to town, and he asked me, well, are there any holy men or women around here I could visit? And so that's when I took Sam to see Karmu. And I didn't even know that what Sam thought of him until, you know, people from California started coming and saying, oh, Sam said he was the Black Christ and we want to come and see Karmu.
I met Karmu actually the first night I came to Boston. And Sufi Sam Lewis had a group going in of people in Boston. So I had hooked up with this woman, Manira, who was running the Sufi group there. And she said, oh, you have to come meet this guy, Karmu. This guy just, you know, kind of didn't talk to me at all, except right at the end, it was like, you know, take 2 spoonfuls of my food, you know, you'll make $100 or $1 million. And he's just a character. And I think that just it was like a social thing.
What I did remember was that Murshid, quite a decade earlier, had written a poem called The Black Christ. And so when he heard about this healer, Karmu, you know, there was some kind of sense, well, maybe this was the person that I had a premonition about.
Well, years ago, I wrote a poem called The Black Christ. And earlier this year, I landed in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and there I met my Black Christ. And he'd become a professional healer, never advertising and never failing. Well, I visited him a number of times, and he fixed me up good.
He had literally saved generations of kids from Harvard Square. The kids who dropped acid freaked out, starting back in the 60s. I mean, really. They found refuge in his house. He fed people for nothing.
The door was literally open. Anybody off the street could come up.
One story I remember in particular was the night that this Black Panther guy showed up at the house with a gun. He said to Karmu, you know, what are you doing with all these white people? I'm going to get rid of all these white people for you. He was waving this gun around. We were sitting there trying to disappear. And Karmu just said, we don't do that kind of thing here. And the guy gradually came off his thing and had some soup.
You know, some of the neighbors have complained. But the police, I hail the police. I take them to several police stations and I kiss them on the street. They're my boys. They love me, I love them. No problems.
You know, what you saw was in the evening, you'd be in the bedroom, somebody would be on the bed, and he'd be massaging them, people would be having drinks, other people would be massaging other people, he'd be dancing, we'd watch TV.
I know it was like going from a black and white television set to color TV, and from flat sound to stereophonic sound. It was incredible. You know, it was just totally unbelievable, and I think I kept going back to see if it was real.
He was in the right time in the right place, and you know, I think he drew a lot of very interesting people to him.
Karmu really treated everybody the same. He was not influenced by your station in life. He didn't care what you were wearing or, you know, what your name was. I remember they brought holy men from India into his kitchen. And these guys came in, very pious men in the white robes. And with no disrespect, he would just say to them, hey, cat, you know, sit down, have some juice. You know, he just spoke to them the way he spoke to a junkie who came off the street looking to crash.
So I'm a little bit amazed that I was there to see these people, but I didn't go there looking for that experience. And even when I was having it, I don't think I understood what I was seeing.
I had a gift. The gods told me I have visions. I touch people and the pain left of them. We used to make a joke out of it, but after a while it became serious.
Karmu, how do you heal? Under partial hypnosis, you invade the subconscious with a plus element. You will them to get better, and they get better.
The one gift he had was that he could see past the disease and lift up the person's spirit inside. He really could do that.
For a medically trained person to be able to convey to a patient a real conviction that they can get better and that they're okay, I think that's one of the most powerful ways to stimulate healing.
He got to have people see the world differently. And that's half the gift of being a therapist, is changing someone's reality. Just a quarter of an inch.
They're looking for a future. They're looking for a future life. They're looking for a place in the sun. They're looking for hope. It's tough to live every day and not knowing that you're going to die and that's going to happen to you. If you can hope for something, hang on to something. It gives you a fighting chance. All that's the fighting chance.
It makes you believe a lot of things that in ordinary everyday life you wouldn't believe. He made me maybe the second or third greatest lover of all time. Because he is, of course, the first greatest lover of all times.
Karmu preached hope. This was one of his main lessons.
He needs an escape from the commonplace. He needs, my friend, laughter, an escape from tears. He needs to be fixed up, in other words. He needs to hurry and laugh and kiss and hug and make love. He needs a leap in the sky and point his fingers and do good things.
We were doing all the latest, hottest stuff, Gestalt therapy, bioenergetics, primal scream therapy. He knew every single one. That's what I'm saying. He was a mystery man. How did he learn that stuff?
At that time, in the late 60s, early 70s, there weren't too many people that I ran into, especially in Cambridge and Boston, who were knowledgeable about herbal remedies. So he certainly had a large number of things that he used. I didn't know the sources of them or what he was using or what tradition this came from until I read about him later.
Well, I'll be honest. There's several herbs. There's snake root, everlasting root of Sufi weeds, ginseng, Chinese herb, Garfield tea, number of things. Then we put in raisins, prunes, lemons, lime, garlic, onions, fruit juices, and a dash of Jamaican rum once in a while.
Red medicine is sangria. Red medicine is lots and lots of fruits and fruit juices naturally fermenting. He told me that his ancestor that came from Africa brought some of this with him. And actually, some guy from BU or someplace analyzed it and told Karmu that there were bacteria colonies in it. So he got colonies he took off with that concept, and he'd say, there's whole civilizations in this thing. Movie theaters, cars, schools, churches, the whole thing. There's neighborhoods in here. There's whole civilizations in here.
It gives you a feeling of goodwill. It makes you love your fellow man. Eliminates all your worries. It makes you feel like you're 10 feet tall. The world is yours to have, to hold, and swing. Just makes you feel good. So we make up 50 gallons a week. And the citizens drink it up, maybe like 4 or 5 gallons a night. Then they take it home with them. That's what you're drinking now. It doesn't. But it doesn't hurt. I've been using it about 50 years.
Where'd you get that?
I got it from my father. The Rabbi Shabu, colorful character. He was called the original Black Jew. He said he was from the original tribe. Everybody paid homage.
I never met the Rabbi Shabu. He said that he's the one who taught him the African healing system. His medicines were for real. He had green medicine for the mouth, blue medicine for the skin, for all membranes. And of course, blue medicine had been used before antibiotics as the blue wash all through the Western United States. And when I went to India later and met healers, and it was used for millennia in India, it's sold in little packets there as the blue wash. So this is ancient folk medicine, but dangerous as hell.
That's blue medicine. And as has been discussed, it's a douche, it's an eye wash, it's a gargle. It's for your ears. So, back in the old days, 1900 up to whenever penicillin came out, if you had strep, you get through it on your own immune system, or you got this, and this saved a lot of lives.
It's a traditional antifungal from the days before there were the current crop of antifungals. It killed a whole bunch of bugs and germs. So it had many traditional values in standard medicine as well as folk medicine.
He was very into cleaning the body. Now, the whole thing of cleaning and food we're just beginning to be aware of.
What he teaches is your mindset that you bring to the food. That's what matters.
One of his extraordinary gifts was that he picked up on retroviruses and herpes and AIDS before it happened. He said, there's a new venereal disease out there. And he'd point out this gentleman and say, and he has it. And, you know, if you make sure you always use my blue medicine.
Karmu spotted a resistant case of gonorrhea that's come back from Vietnam. And he would teach people to put blue medicine with a syringe, a glass syringe, in the penis and spray it to clean out so they wouldn't spread this disease to the woman that they were going to have sex with. First it was the gonorrhea, then it was the syphilis, then it was the herpes, and then later was AIDS. These came in waves. And what he would do is he would change the mind, he would strengthen the body.
He did an intense kind of Reichian body therapy.
One route to the present is the body. And so when Karmu, as would do, forgive my fat belly here, but he would grab you in his belly and he would go like that, to sort of wake you up, bring you into the present. It produced many emotional states for people. So waking people up to the present seemed to be a big part of what Karmu did, and did very well.
He certainly knew acupuncture. He knew all about Chinese medicine, Karmu. I mean, Karmu knew, and what he was doing was essentially what I learned at Ayurvedic medicine later. So, you know, he had all that knowledge.
When we were there, and he had the white medicine for massage, if you remember, there was hardly any of that kind of medicine around. Now you go into Whole Foods or wherever, and they've got, oh, beautiful, and every variety under the sun.
I kind of like to think of him as one of the early people in holistic healthcare. A lot of what I learned about holistic healthcare came from what he was doing.
He would heal all kinds of physical ailments. You know, people would, I mean, but who knows if a cancer leaves because of his massage or because you get a remission? Who knows? You can't prove that.
I was really sick in the hospital. I had a tumor. They were giving me this really strong drug that kills all the fast-growing cells in your body. So all he did was just put his hand on my forehead. He held it there a long time. And he just kept saying, we have everything to gain and nothing to lose. The next day, they were able to continue the use of it.
You know, the one thing people commented about all the time was the heat that came off of his hands and the heat that they felt in their body. They'd look all rosy, but there would be a circulation.
I remember a group of nuns coming in, and he did the same treatment, you know. Come sit on my lap, dear, and, you know, give them the old massage, and he went, and they're not sure if they should smile because they know it really feels good, but perhaps it's not supposed to.
Karmu was a very real person who touched people in a very real way. I mean, literally touched them to heal them, but touched their souls with his energy.
I've worked with some very powerful energy healers, and when they've put their hands on me, what I felt is not subtle. I think it's obvious, and that anybody would feel that. I think also we all have the ability to do that to some extent. Some people are able to do it very powerfully.
He knew the mystery of energetic exchange between people.
That is the key. That is for all the white medicine, the blue medicine, the red medicine, and all of these different healing techniques. It was the love that was transferred through touch.
But certainly I understood for the first time how someone could be a conduit for energy.
It comes from personal magnetism, from living above reproach and believing what you're doing. You can't be born with a special gift. If you're born with a gift, you can touch something, the pain goes away. I mean, you'll take energy out of the ground, out of the air. You live in a manner above reproach that you can put yourself in a state and suspend animation, and you can destroy the energy in the air around you. It comes in you. You take your feet off, take your shoes off, and put your feet in the ground, and the energy comes to you. Like vegetables, like flowers, and if we live a natural way, God gives us energy. And this energy can give to others.
Karmu was all about energy. And now, you know, all these years later, there's so much more emphasis on energy, on the realization that that's the only thing that can't be destroyed is energy. It can only be transformed. and that we are all energy. And he was just completely tuned into it.
I really felt his energy, this very strong, positive energy, and that stayed with me for a very long time, and I think had a really lasting effect on me.
Dig the vibrations. This is so sensational. You look like you've been in Florida for 6 years. I'm telling you. None of that kills all the germs in your body. You never have any wrinkles. You feel like 13 movie stars. Many women kicking your doors to hold his hand and caress him and give him a double place in the sun.
The typical thing in Karmu's house is that people would come in, often strangers at first time there, and he would focus on them. And maybe there's 10 or 12 or 20 people standing around listening and watching. And he would tell this person to walk through the door, in essence, how wonderful they were.
This is my love. This is my daughter. This is my lovely one. I love her. I love her. I love her. I don't care who knows it. We have a deep love between us. She helped me push cars in the winter. If I'm broke, she gives me $1. She cooks my food. We love each other. And she loves my son. Pretty boy Michael, the movie star. No, we're crazy. One of my special flowers.
When you see people walk through the door all blue and bedraggled and sad, and within 5 to 10 minutes, he's told them he's going to find them 5 new wives and 3 new boyfriends and not to worry about the job, 3 more jobs coming. And you see people beginning to dance and flower and expand and become themselves. That's an amazing, amazing thing. Very few people walked away from there angry.
First, you hook them, and then you deal with reality. You teach them what they're doing wrong. And that's what Karmu would basically do. He would hook people by building them up, unconditional love, unconditional this, unconditional that. People would flourish and become young again and happy, and they'd be making love, and they'd be doing this, and they'd be kissing everyone and running around. And then they'd start doing the things that would get them in trouble. And he would go along with it for a while, and then suddenly he'd start cutting the rug out from under the negative behaviors.
He was attentive to what vibration people brought in, and when people were down, he'd work to lift them up, and when people kind of high, he'd knock them down a little bit.
His primary gift is being able to reinforce the higher aspirations in people, being able to zone in on those elements inside a person that are his strengths, by means of the cultivation of which he can change his life.
He snapped you to attention around the positives. And by insisting that everybody there do that, he created a positive node of energy. And that helped transform the newbie who might come in soured, lost in a funk of some sort or other, right out of the funk, bring them right out and heal them.
He's like the Robin Williams of holy men. He just would go on a rant, and it was gorgeous. And the point was to make this person feel better about themselves.
And he had this whole way of speaking about how you were a triple movie star and, you know, look at those teeth. And he'd go on and on. He had his own, almost like a dialect that he would use.
You're so beautiful. Look like you're 11 years old right now. Honest to God, you're really something else.
And very wise, too.
And when I look at you, I feel ashamed and small and meek and weak. You are my wisdom, you are my strength. You're my God-given grace. You're my power, you're my love. A goddess without wings. A flower in the garden. A rose, a scent of jasmine. You're so beautiful. All the gods and all the worlds know of our love. May it be eternal. 17 trillion years at least. 100 million children. I heard that.
He could sense things about people that were very inner. I mean, he was a masterful psychologist.
Young man, you have a gift. You know where you're going? You're going places. You know what that means? You'll never be broke. You know what that means? Many women shall kick in your doors and hold your hand. You know what that means? I shall teach you the Japanese first. Maybe a level 5 hours at one time. You know what that means? You're a god, my friend. You know what that means? It means that you're careless, that you hate $1. You have a contempt for $1. It means that you're above reproach. It means you walk in the sun and do good things. Quiet, the Holy One's talking.
It's not about flattery. He would actually look for strengths and acknowledge them. He'd energetically recognize when a person would connect with a resource of their own and mark it and name it. And in doing so, gives people gifts.
This is giving you the plus element. He would heal your mind by expanding it, giving you all kinds of ideas. He'd get you high on his medicines, and then you dance, and they'd do you, and you'd loosen up.
Another way to get them into partial hypnosis is to use humor.
Well, we know that there's a vast amount of evidence that positive moods, and laughter is the signifier of positive mood, have positive effects on the immune system, positive effects in the cardiovascular system, positive effects throughout the body. So anything that will get you into an upbeat, happy state is good for you. And Karmu was one of those things.
And love shall sink in your soul, and your eyes shall be aglow, and your nostrils shall dilate, and your lips shall tremble, and your ears shall fall off, and your hair shall have a luster as the gods touch you. That's my case. Look at hiding.
See, now that laughter, that is the healing laughter. Make them laugh, my friend, and you win. See, when you open that up, what happens? They relax, he does you, and you're flying high in the sky.
He was hilarious. And that had a positive effect on everyone.
So I walk in and we're in his bedroom and he's there with two young ladies and I had blood in my sperm for some reason. So he said to me, Jalal Waladin, take your pants down. Even though we had a beard and long hair and we were hippies, there's still a modicum of being modesty left. So I said, there are like these strange girls here. He said, Jalal Waladin, take your pants down. This was the beginning of it. So I did. And then he said to me, okay, lie on the bed, but it was a special way. The bed was here, and I had to lie with my pants down or off, with my head over the side of the bed, naked. And then Karmu started to massage my testicles. So he rubbed my testicles with that mysterious turpentine oil, all of which I worried about. Like, would I survive the healing? Would my skin get burnt? Would I live through this? And so he massaged him and he said some stuff. I remember his big hands coming down and I was like in shell shock. And then after a while, he just said, okay. So I got up and I put my pants back up and these two girls, were like, and that was it. It went away. It never happened again.
You have to understand the atmosphere of psychology and science in those days. David was taking enormous risks. He was one of the most eminent living psychologists of his time. And when Karmu showed up, David really got something, I think. He always complained of stomach problems. But he said Karmu was the only person who ever helped him. Doctors were no help. But Karmu did. And that really piqued David's scientific curiosity. And he tried to do a kind of pilot experiment where people who had colds would go to Karmu and half would get his treatment, half would get some phony treatment. And apparently he really found an effect in terms of antibody titers to the cold virus. And David was, even though he's so open-minded, he was absolutely an empiricist. He wanted to see the data. So he kept a log of his encounters with Karmu. And at the same time, he was trying to get funders interested in pursuing this line of research. And that was way ahead of its time. This was the beginning of well-respected psychologists taking a look at what was then being called mind-body medicine, the way in which the mind could impact the body. This was a radical thought in the early 70s. Karmu, from a scientific point of view, was very elusive because he didn't care. He was in another, modality. He was being, Karmu. And Karmu had nothing to do with scientific data. He was just helping people.
David McClellan, who was the chairman of Harvard psychology department, his wife was ill. dying of cancer. And Karmu, according to David, didn't cure her, but made her a concept of healing, was that she became peaceful and at comfortable with her dying, which we didn't have hospice then.
But what Karmu did do, and what David recognized, was he helped her manage her own response to her illness.
Live at 360 degrees. Tomorrow may be a bad day, tomorrow may be a good day. Tomorrow it might rain. Tomorrow the wind may blow you down. Accept as a part of living. And once you do that, you become one with nature.
There had been a woman who had been in a car accident, and he said, I'm going to send one of my people down in New York. And he said, you're going. He's to me. And I said, oh, no, this is not going to go well. And I get to the hospital, and the woman's brain is sticking out of her skull. So I thought, okay, what am I going to do here? So I thought, all right, do her feet. And the one thing I remember is I was doing her feet, and the nurse afterwards, I did the nurse, and my hands were hot. So then, about 3 weeks later, she came out of the coma and called. I came back, and I cried for 4 days. And Karmu wouldn't touch me. He would say to everyone else, she knows how to take the pain on, she doesn't know how to get rid of it. Finally, he held me, and it all went away. So I thought, okay, this is serious stuff. You don't just, it's not such an easy thing, I'll just take this on when you're dealing with some serious disease like that.
We were living in a small house, and there was a house fire, and Vicky and Felix were killed in the house fire. So my world was pretty much destroyed at that time. I came up to John's at one point just to stay with John. It was from there that I went to Karmu's and received the healing touch from him. When I lay on his bed, he would put his arms around me or touch me, and I would feel that the pain would drain away for a while. I went from feeling like intolerable grief to a feeling of just betterness about life and the world, and I could survive.
I've seen miracles where Karmu has healed 3 and 4 people at a time of cancer. They send back letters with documented proof.
And most of my friends are dead from, drugs, alcohol, or in jail. So my father introduced me to Karmu. And out of that aspect, I'm alive, number one. And number two, I found spirituality, which I didn't think I had because I was running the streets.
My whole life experience changed. I should be a Jewish princess living in the suburbs and maybe driving a Mercedes beach wagon or something. And I didn't choose that path. That wasn't my path to travel, but that's the path that I was on when I met Karmu.
My sense was that he really provided a kind of safe harbor for a lot of people who would be having serious trouble in the world if they hadn't found that place.
I had been in Boston from 63 to 69, so that was 6 years, and I had a chance to deal with the pain of having grown up in South Africa and getting over the shame and the guilt of being a white person, that I was a descendant of people who could have done these horrible things in South Africa. Karmu took me through a very, very deep healing of my soul with that. And so I call this soul rain. That I'm moved to cry right now. I've never been loved by like that by another human being. He saw who I was, and he helped me celebrate who I was.
He was no stranger to prejudice. One time he went to a diner with a friend of mine, actually. My friend told me this story, and they went into the diner and they had something to eat, and when they left, Karmu said to my friend, well, 40 years ago I went into this place, and as I was leaving, they took the plates that I'd eaten off of and they broke them. And they said, get out of here and never come back, nigger. And this was the same place 40 years later, and no one was batting an eye, but he remembered that.
So he would put himself down and make himself funny or silly or the Shakespearean fool. He would play the fool.
Something when he would talk about how white people would, keep black people down, and that he wasn't a kept down person.
Here is this guru, and one of the things that Karen likes to say, everybody disses the dude because I mean, like all these other gurus who came here, man, for 5 hot minutes get all this recognition. This dude who's been here healing people for nothing, man, you know, never gets any play.
You know, he had his issues around race, but in his higher consciousness, I think he clearly identified with the whole of humanity as being one people.
I believe he was a very, very spiritual man. But some people may question spirituality with the many women that he was with, for example.
And the fact that there were a lot of young people in Karmu's house, and there were young women in Karmu's house, and that he may have had some kind of intimate connection with some of them, as far as I knew, and here I am filming and talking to people, interviewing people, if that connection happened, and it was quite discreet, wasn't anything that was being flaunted.
There was always a new influx of people. And what happened after I left was different than what happened when I was there.
I think Karmu sensed the end of that era, and he had to change the venue, and everything changed then. And then there was this bitter period, but that also went along with the Vietnam War.
I did see a couple of situations go down in there that were negative. People came in with ego trips. People came in with violent trips.
I think everyone's got a dark side.
They heal every so often, become egotistical. Someone walks in with a hole in their leg and it gets filled up, it gets healed. You say, oh, I did that. And you forget that you got your power from divine source. You say to yourself, I did it. And you have to remember that you have a source of energy, a source of power, and you should treat it with respect.
He was a man. He had flaws, like the rest of us. And yet he demonstrated that a man, a flawed human being, can be so giving.
That was the great blessing of Karmu. He didn't want me to spend my life in a rundown storefront healing. He wanted me to go off and be a doctor.
Remember when he stopped going to his shop? That was the saddest thing. He used to go every day, and we'd all, you know, even in the pouring rain, be down there.
It was painful for him, and he definitely wanted all the stops pulled out. It wasn't like, you know, some people say, well, I'm ready to go, and he wasn't ever ready to just give up.
Karmu died on a Monday, and perhaps his funeral was on Wednesday or Thursday. So there he was, laid out in an open casket, and people came, and everyone, I think, paid their final respects. But it just went on and on and on. So at 1:30, 2 o'clock, we were all still there, and the room filled up and filled up and filled up. And it was really great. I mean, it was a wonderful cast of characters, the people that came to speak.
We're the rascals. We're the religious rascals. But particularly Karmu's children we are distinctly, uniquely us.
I guess he's just a light shining, and everybody's picking up a little bit of that light.
He helped thousands of people in my watch.
I learned a lot of fearlessness around him. I'm not afraid of the unknown. I'm not afraid of meeting people. I'm not afraid of the script of just being in a new situation.
You have to look at the big picture. And his big picture was giving, sharing, loving.
He was a real big one on I'm my brother's keeper, you know, do unto others. I mean, a lot of these really good Christian values, you know, that if we all lived that way, we'd be a better world.
If he's hungry, feed him. If he's cold water, if he's unloved, give him love. Give him what you have, that he might be able to walk the high road of life unashamed and unafraid. Make him happy, my friend. Give happiness, give friendship, give of yourself. And by doing it, you do the Lord's work. You are your brother's keeper, my friend. Make him happy, make him strong. Make him fearless, make him brave. Will him love God, his mother, his father, his fellow men. This is our philosophy.
He gave me a place, like he says, he'll give you a place in the sun. I don't know if anybody can give you a place in the sun. At least they can make you feel like there's a place where what you do will matter, or what you do will be appreciated. And the more you try to be appreciated, the more you'll be appreciated. And like in 1971 or 72, there just aren't very many places like that.
And I still feel protected by him today.
We are his hands of healing in this world. This dude is alive today in all of us. Thank God.
We have a song, we have a joy, we have an expression. And the expression is music. And the music unleashes our hearts, our thoughts, our songs, and we are one together, together one. I bless you, my people. I love you all. We'll all go to jail, that's for sure. My word, my word, my word. As we did our thing. You want to be a great man? You can make it because you got the gift, my friend. You have what they call a genetic personality. You got a lot of talent. You're a good-looking cat. You got good eyeballs, good hands. I want to teach you the Japanese twist. I'll make you the greatest lover of all time. You've got it made in the shade. Right on.
We are one people. We have a place in the sun. We have a place on earth. We have a place together. We are one together. We are one together. Together one. Toward the one together. That's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. That's what it's all about.